Hello and welcome to Envision. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor for the Sioux Falls School District, and Dr. Brian Maher, our superintendent, is here with this installment of Envision. And this time we're talking about the legislature. The 2016 legislative session is off and running, and we are paying close attention to things that are happening out in Pierre. Kind of explain that process and why it's so important for schools and school districts to be paying attention.
Well, you are right. It's up and running, and it gets kind of moving, and then it just gets sprinting right away. And we're, I think, in that sprinting mode right now. The reason it's really important, really for every school district, certainly for the Sioux Falls School District, to stay on top of what's going on legislatively is there are so many areas that legislation can hit. Can hit in, to your revenue stream and how do you receive money. It can hit into the expenditures, what's happening in Pierre that might cause you to have to spend the money. It can hit on student discipline issues. So there are so many different areas that legislative can touch a school district. It's really wise for every school district to stay on top of what's happening in Pierre.
And that process, while you do make several trips to Pierre, and we have other folks that do the same, we also have a lobbyist out there to watch out for the best interests of the Sioux Falls School District. And some of those bills that come down, we get that information. What happens then once a bill is presented? How do we go about getting through the bills and understanding them more clearly?
We have a lot of eyes that look at the information that's circulating in Pierre. As I mentioned, it could be a financial implication. It could be a discipline situation which may hit more of our human resources area. It could be a concept dealing with curriculum, and so that part of our department would be very interested. So we have a lot of eyes within the district that ultimately looks at legislation, and we try to do a couple of things. We may try to defeat legislation if we think it's just poor policy. We may try to encourage the enactment of the legislation if we think it's good policy. And oftentimes we just take a neutral stance because we don't think it impacts at least the Sioux Falls School District either way. The number of people that we have at any one time looking at legislation is probably half a dozen or so that ultimately as an administrative group we can make recommendations to our Board of Education on how we think that that specific legislation will impact the school district. And then ultimately our board will make a decision to support, oppose, or remain neutral on any bill active in Pierre.
And that information then is typically posted out on the website. So if any taxpayer, any citizen is wondering, well, how is the Sioux Falls School District feeling about this? That information is available for them and sort of the rationale behind that position as well.
Right, great point. At any point in time, we'll have our information posted as to how we stand as a school district on any particular bill that impacts us. It amazes me how many school districts have told me that they look at that, not necessarily to agree with us, but to see where we stand. But also, our legislators are going to know where we are as a school district, and certainly any patron within the district itself can know where the school district is going to be on a particular bill. So we think that's important in terms of being transparent with our community.
Absolutely, and usually at the end of the session then we sort of take a look back and say how many bills did we track, how many went in our favor, how many didn't go in our favor, and that type of thing. But it is always, you can kind of see cyclical things that come back, maybe that didn't get passed last year, maybe they come with a new twist on them this year. So it is interesting to pay attention how those iterations of bills take place.
It's interesting in my first year trying to catch up on the history of some bills that are back for a second or third time, or just what the history is, because that's really important. And some bills simply don't get passed until it's their time. So
right.
As a district, luckily we have enough people here that can help me with that history.
Very good. Well, something to pay attention to if you're into politics and you want to know the position that the Sioux Falls School District takes on a particular education-related bill. We encourage you to log on to our website, sf.k12.sd.us, and check it out there. Thanks for joining us on Envision.